my desire for everybody who reads this book is to walk away from the book and the process that it invites you to do. And, this is probably not going to be an overnight thing, but walk away with a feeling of gratitude and reverence and appreciation and care for their bodies. Understand that literally their body, like your body is the only being you're guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with, right? Like it's you and your body, and everything else can change, but it's you and your body. And your body wants to go on adventures with you. Your body wants to have a vibrantly alive time of it. Your body wants to thrive. Your body, wants to be loved by you. And if we can actually do that, then we will be truly present for our lives, and we will be just having so much more joy and so much more love and so much more wonderful experience of life. So that's why it's called your body is the portal to your soul. Like if you can really honor and appreciate and care for your body, then your soul can actually drop in properly, and you can, be truly alive. And that's what I would desire for every single human being on the planet, to just have that experience, because then we can have peace, and then we can have connection, and then we can have joy, and then we can have, long leisurely dinners with people that we love. It's about squeezing all the juiciness out of life while we're here. Yeah.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. What makes me happy is having a podcast where I get to talk to great authors. What makes me even more happy is when they decide to come back and give us an update and talk about new projects. Iris is coming back to talk about her stuff that she's working on, her book, all of the great things in her life. She came on about a year ago, and I love reconnecting. So, Iris, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter.
Thank you so much, Dave. So good to be back. Nice to reconnect.
It's good. And for you, it's like super early in the morning. I got to say, I don't know if I could do what you do by coming on this early. I am not functional at 6 a.m. But for you, it's that for you in your time zone. And for me, it's like 4 p.m. So I'm good. I've had my coffee. I'm feeling all right. For you, you're just getting going. So Iris, let everybody know where you are in this big world of ours.
I'm in the time zone of Sydney, Australia. So I'm about 3 hours north of Sydney, and the sun isn't out of bed yet where I am right now, because it's the middle of winter.
Every time I hear somebody here in North America, in the U.S., say, oh, it's so nice, it's summertime, everyone's doing summer things, I think of my friends over there going, no, it's not. It's not warm. Yeah. It's not sunny. It's winter. It's cold. And I'm like, we have such a global audience. So I'm sure that there's people who live in your beautiful part of the world are going, finally, someone who's talking about what's happening in August for us. So thank you, Iris. This is great.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind too, Australia is a very, very big place. It's the same size as the United States. So there are part of Australia right now who are quite balmy, and parts that are freezing. Like in the south, you get all the weather straight up from Antarctica. There's nothing between Antarctica and Australia.
Yeah, multiple time zones, everything. Yeah. It's good. See, so we're learning a little geography, a little weather, a little time stuff as well today. We got so much, and we've already just started, so it's great. So last year you were on to talk about your book, and I'm so glad that you're back. Take us back to that conversation a little bit for those who haven't heard that episode. And I'll have a link for that in the show notes. But talk about your first book again. Remind us of that, and then let's jump ahead and talk about what you're working on now.
Yeah. So the first book is called Passion to Thrive. Reclaim your life's purpose, potential, passion, and power. And it's primarily for women. And it basically invites women to try out different ways of being in the world in terms of connecting with the different archetypes. And that sounds a lot harder than it actually is. An archetype is just a way of showing up in the world. For example, the brat would be an archetype, or the queen would be an archetype, or a mother would be an archetype. So these archetypes have got different ways that they show up in the world, different ways that they approach things, different way that they problem solve. And basically, the more of these energies that we're familiar with, the more we can draw on whatever is the most appropriate way to solve a problem or, relate to another person at this point in time. So I'm just introducing these different archetypes because a lot of us grow up thinking, okay, well, I've got to be the good girl, or I've got to be the high achiever, or I've got to grow up to be a mother, or whatever it is, and never give any thought to the idea of, well, that's something that you picked up when you were growing up, and that may or may not even have been true. So it's about going, okay, well, if I don't want to do this, then what are my other options? So it's a bit like having a big basket with all different clothes and just trying on, the different roles, basically different roles, and go, well, what is the one that's most closely aligned to what my soul wants to do? And that's going to be the bit that makes you the most excited and happy and interested and curious and expansive. And if we don't know that this is available to us, then how are we going to find that out? And there's lots of different interviews with other women who have been through incredible hardship and come out on the other side, to demonstrate that, you can come back from just horrible pasts and make your present and your future a much, much brighter one. So that if somebody's in deep distress and doesn't know how to get out, they have, I think it's 7 women, they have 7 women's stories that basically say, well, this is how I did it. So that, the person questioned knows that they're not on their own and that it can be done. And that helps too.
What's it like to look back over a year ago to the conversation, and what's kind of changed for you in the last year since that conversation to today?
Well, I released another book, which is called Your Body is the Portal to Your Soul. Your body has the answers, make it your best friend for life. So I was actually writing that one when we spoke last time. And this book is about, well, I'm a chiropractor in my other job. And this is basically taking the insights from what I've learned about bodies and people in the last, I've been a chiropractor for nearly 30 years now, and understanding how bodies work and how they communicate with us. Because like most people have a relationship of dislike, at least to some extent, with their body, and some people even hate their body, and some people feel betrayed by their body. But really, a body is an intelligent being. It's, I can think of it as a little pet, like with a pet, you would feed it the best food and make sure it gets the right kind of exercise and a nice soft place for rest and, fresh water and joy and play and all those sorts of things. Yeah. Our bodies are like little pets in that way. Like they need all those things in order to thrive. The more our bodies thrive, the more we can thrive in our bodies. So our bodies know how to navigate 3D physical reality. They know how to live a life that's happy and well and like physically, I want to say expensive, but like feeling physically good, feeling alive. And they try to tell us this, and we kind of go, oh, I haven't got time for that right now. I've got big things going on right now, big mind things or big whatever. And then they get more insistent about, okay, I actually need you to really attend to this need that I've got. It could be food or could be thirst or whatever. And the more we suppress it, the more uncomfortable our body gets, the less we want to be in our body, the more we, so we just get increasingly disconnected. So this is an invitation to understand that, you can interact with your body in so many different ways. Like I said, my favorite one is looking at my body as a unique, intelligent entity that I get to live in. So it literally is like, oh, okay, my body right now doesn't want me to sit down any longer. I need to get up and move. It's like, that's not hard. And I find that, if I override that, so I'll just finish this thing that should take me 5 minutes on the computer or whatever. It doesn't. It takes 20 minutes because I just can't focus anymore, and things just derail. Whereas if I did get up and had a walk around and had a glass of water and went back to it, it would have taken 5 minutes. And the result is that at the end of the 20 minutes that it did take, I'm so much more exhausted. So it takes longer to recover, which means that means I've got an hour or two that I could have otherwise enjoyed if I just listened and done what my body needed when it needed me to do it, So so that's one of my favorite ways to interact with my body. Then there are other ways, like, for example, you can interact with your body as a liquid crystal, because we are that too. Like, depending on who you talk to, we're between 70 and 99% water. And water carries frequency. If you have been seeing the water crystal imagery by either Masaru Emoto or Vida Austin, basically water is crystalline, just like a computer screen is. So that means that depending on what the energy is that you carry, so when I say that, I've referred to things like, are you carrying kindness right now? Are you compassionate right now? Are you angry right now? Are you sad right now? Are you grievy right now? So the let's call it the basic frequency there that you're in is going to determine what the water crystals do in your body. And if they're like hexagonal snowflakes in suspension, they will transmit energy much more readily, meaning that things can get moved on as they need to really readily. Whereas if you carry, shall we say, unpleasant things like hate, like anger, like sadness or grief, then the water is not going to be as structured, and then the body doesn't work as well. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't feel anger, or maybe hate's a bit tricky, but sadness or grief. But most of us have been taught that it's not okay to feel certain emotions. And what happens then is that we dissociate from them and go, I'm not allowed to feel that. I'll just tuck that away for later. And the place we tuck that away for later from is actually in our bodies. And at some point, we're going to have to feel that, like, it doesn't mean we have to act it out. It just means we have to allow it to be there so that it can integrate, and then we can go, our bodies can go, good, I don't have to carry that anymore. I don't need to try to get your attention to this blob of unhelpful energy that I've been carrying around all this time. And we can go away and have fun again together.
So I'm now speaking, obviously, as a guy, as a man. I think that in general terms, maybe men aren't as in tune with this part of our bodies and understanding it or explaining it, then maybe women might be a little bit more in tune. It's kind of general terms, I understand, but I just think that men could do better at learning how to do this and understanding this. Would your book help men to kind of understand this more, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this book's for everyone. Yeah. I guess, like, women get a monthly reminder that they have a body, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So our awareness gets put back into the body on a regular basis. Whereas, my impression of men is that, they have a body that just does things, and it's a fairly steady thing. And they just keep going until at some point in time something breaks down and they're like, oh, I can't keep doing this anymore. And then it's actually quite scary, because I think a lot of men also derive a lot of identity from what they physically can do. Sports people, or, carrying heavy stuff, or drive long distances, or build a house, or whatever, So if their bodies actually start craving attention, then suddenly the tools haven't been developed in the same way to actually interact with the body and go, okay, so what do you need from me right now? Or I need rest, or I need whatever. Yeah, definitely. It's a book for men and women. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that men can probably learn a lot more about how to live healthier and be more in touch with themselves and understand the signals that we're receiving, where, again, you talk about putting things away and be like, I'll deal with that later. That typically seems to be a male thing. I notice a lot of men who do that. They get these signals from their bodies saying, warning, kind of like the little lights on the dash of your car They give you a warning that you should have your seatbelt on, or there's something wrong with your vehicle, and we're like, that's just a warning sign. That doesn't mean anything. There's these little warning signs that are on our radar that we need to pay attention to.
That's right. Yeah. I guess, like in our culture in particular, we've been conditioned away from having a tolerance for things that are unpleasant in some way, shape, or form. Like we're always meant to be, happy and suntanned and smiley, and it doesn't matter what goes on the inside. So it's, like I just think that, men, it's not really men's fault, because it's such a big cultural conditioning.
Yeah.
So, where was I going with that? Maybe edit that bit out.
I'm with you. Sure. I'm with you.
I had a really good point then.
It'll come back.
Yeah, deconditioning. We're conditioned into that our worth depends on what we do, right? What we offer, what we provide, but as beings, and that's not just human beings in my view of the world, like that's every being, and that's including rocks, and that's including the earth herself, and that's including everything around us. Every being has inherent value. And like just by being who we truly are, like if we can live in our hearts and being who we truly are and emit that soul frequency that's unique to us, that is necessary for creation to be complete. Yeah, so we can sing the song of joy that's in our heart. That's actually enough. Like we don't need to strike. We don't need to look outside for worth, because then, of course, you get on the hamster wheel. Like if you need to provide to be of worth, then you've got to provide more and more and more and more and more and more. Whereas if you can know in your heart that you are worthy because you are a human being, you are a spark of divine breath living in a physical body, and that having an experience on planet Earth is actually enough. It just flips the whole thing around, and then anything that we do is a bonus. It's extra. It's not because we have to, it's because we want to share this bounty that flows through us. And that's a complete 180 on the current culture. And the upshot of that is, of course, that people are going to be much harder to rope into consumerism. Like if you're actually happy and content and feeling fulfilled in your own self, you're not going to be roped into, you need the next upgrade of your car or whatever. Yeah. It's like, well, the old one works fine, like, yeah. And I don't need a car to prove anything to anyone because I already know I'm enough, more than enough. So, yeah. And I think because women get drawn into their body on a more regular basis,
right?
They, that escaping into the mind is not as continuous as it is for men.
Yeah.
Having said that, most people, is my observation, don't actually even live in their bodies. They don't feel their bodies. They live sort of, maybe from the chin up. Most people from sort of eyes up. So they live in their thoughts. They live in their emotions sometimes. And emotions are different from feelings. Like emotions are, the drama side of things, whereas feeling is a feedback of what it is that's going on for you right now. Mm-hmm. Is that true? I must have never thought. But, like some people try to think themselves through life. Some people try to emote themselves through life. Like they don't know they're alive unless there's drama going on. Mm. And while we're doing all of that, we're not feeling in our bodies. Yeah. So if we can't feel what's going on in our bodies, then we miss out on all that guidance that our bodies can give us. And like emotions can feel like they live in our bodies as well. Like for some people, they seem to be like inside the body, and some people they're just on the surface of the body, and they can feel unpleasant. And obviously the two are not really as separate as that. They're actually an integrated unit. So when it gets unpleasant in an emotional sense, then we also distract away and go into our emotions or go into our minds in order to not feel what's going on in there. Whereas really the answer is just allow the unpleasant thing to just be there. And then, in a matter of minutes to sometimes days, if it's a really big one, that emotion will have moved through you, and then it's not there anymore. And you've actually processed it. You're not carrying it around for the rest of your life.
So this whole operating in a disconnected state, and that seemed to be quite normal for many people. They just don't feel connected to themselves, to their bodies. What do we do to reconnect? How do we reestablish that connection if it's broken?
Well, that's what the book's about. Yeah. So, like one of the things I've got in there is a big chapter on fatigue. Like we don't know that there's different kinds of fatigue. Like there's physical fatigue, there's emotional fatigue, there's mental fatigue, and there's spiritual fatigue. And each one of those requires different approaches to be resolved, basically. Yeah. So if our bodies need to sleep, that's great. Go sleep. But if you have spiritual fatigue, you probably don't need to sleep. Like that would actually probably lead you into depression. What you need is reconnection with either through nature or through a human being that you love, or art, or whatever it is that is your particular thing that gives you joy. So I think with regards to disconnection, the first thing is actually to say, well, I am disconnected. Observing that. Like if you've ever had that little sentence, there's got to be more to life than this, chances are you've noticed that you're disconnected at this point in time. Because if you do feel connected, and that connection can be to your own self, to Mother Earth, to Source, to other people or other beings. If you have that connection, you don't ask yourself that question because life is already deeply meaningful. Because you are in relationship with something that is deeply meaningful. I'm repeating myself a bit here. So if you get to the point to where you go, well, there's got to be more to life than this, or if you lose something, that's the first part of my book. If you lose something, and that can be your looks, or that can be your status, or that can be your fame, or you don't get that promotion, and as a result you're deeply shattered and doubt your own worth, then you're probably disconnected as well, because your worth doesn't come from those things. It comes from inside. It comes from your heart. So step one is observing. Okay, something doesn't sit quite right here, and that's already a really big step, because if you're observing it, you're not in it. Yeah, you create a little bit of distance between the two, and you can go, okay, well, actually I'm feeling discomfort right now. And then throughout the book, there are multiple different techniques or different ways of reconnecting. And it's, again, it's like that first book. Hey, try it out. See what works for you. I've actually created a course to go with it as well, because, just a lot of people are probably unfamiliar with this. So there's a way of so gently being guided into, okay, here's how you do this practice, and try it on. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work for you, then try a different one. There's plenty to choose from. And it doesn't have to be hard, like it really doesn't. It just has to be heartfelt. It's not something to effort into. It's something to soften into, like you would into a hot bath. Like it's a melting, it's a surrendering that happens there. Like I don't have to juggle all these balls anymore. I can actually just breathe out and relax. Observation is the first one, and then knowing we have choice is really important as well. Again, that's what the second book has in common with the first book. It's like if you keep making the same choices you've always made, and that can even mean just making the choices that we always make out of habit. But if you keep doing the same things over and over again, we're going to get the same outcome. It's not really rocket science, but it's surprising how many people think, I want this, and then why isn't it showing up? It's like, because you have to actually become the person who can be that or do that or have that. And it's all about frequency match. So if you are walking through the world with a setting of, say, kindness, what you're going to encounter in the world is kindness. And, sometimes you've got to fake it till you make it. If you haven't had kindness in your life and you don't quite know how to do that, find somebody who is and just do what they do, because it clearly works. And sometimes we come across something that we judge as well. Like, if I'm being kind because I judge unkind people, then that's going to be reflected in my life as well.
Yeah.
So it's about having that really clear, clean channel and choosing kindness because that's what's in alignment with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to see kindness in the outside world coming back. And really interesting here, because if you watch the news, for example, or if you follow mainstream media, or even some of the alternative media, you would walk away with an impression that the world really is going to hell in a handbasket. Things are not good. There's all these catastrophes. There's all this stuff. It's like, well, if you get sucked into that, you actually give your energy to that and it perpetuates. So if there's a conflict being presented to you, like there's team A and team B and they're at war with each other, you're actually not being asked to choose team A or team B. You're actually being asked to choose being engaged, sending your energy, sending your attention. Your attention, your focus is your energy currency. Yeah. So you ask, will you send your energy, your attention, your focus on war, or are you going to choose peace? And is there peace where you live right now in your neighborhood? Well, probably, certainly more than in a war zone.
Yeah.
So put your focus on peace, carry that frequency of peace. And the thing is, the more that you walk around carrying peace in your heart, the more you will show other people how this is done. And this works energetically. You don't have to, go and wave a placard around going, hey, pro peace, by actually walking in peace, other people are going to start picking up on that. And then we get a ripple effect. Right. So I think of that as, you've got a bowl and you've got all these pebbles in there, and is the pebble that is you as a human, is that going to be, I don't want to say any old pebble, because I'm sure any old pebble has got a lovely personality as well. But are you going to be like, your average pebble, or are you going to be a gold nugget? What is it that you're going to contribute to humanity? And the more people choose to be a gold nugget, and that is definitely a choice, the more other people go, oh, I don't have to be black. I can be gold, Right. And that's the whole point behind being a human being on planet Earth from where I'm sitting. It's actually about, so you're presented with something. What is your choice? How are you going to deal and interact with that? And we always have the option of choosing joy. And I know it can be really challenging, and I know there are going to be emotions coming up that, are unpleasant and can be difficult. That happens. That's part of the journey. But the more we can be accepting of that and know that it's going to be temporary, and that an unpleasant event or an unpleasant story doesn't define who you are. Yeah. It's something that happens to you, and it's something that's going to actually invite you into stepping into the next most magnificent version of you. If you take that invitation, like I'm sure we all have met somebody who had something bad happen to them and they literally got stuck there. They haven't moved on. It's the one thing they talk about. It's the one thing, well, I can't do this because this happened to me.
Yeah.
Like, a month ago, a year ago, 20 years ago. And you kind of go, so that's something bad that happened to you then, or unpleasant. I prefer to use unpleasant because bad has got such a judgy sense to it. Mm-hmm. So something unpleasant happened to you then. And because of that, for the rest of your life, you don't want to experience the incredible, brilliant, wonderful things that life has to offer. Like the only person you're ripping off is yourself. Yeah. And so some people do need guidance and do need help into how to actually let go and process it, because part of the reason for staying stuck is because you haven't processed it. Mm-hmm. So that takes a bit of courage, and that takes a bit of probably asking around, people that okay, so who do you know that can help with this? And then go and get that help. Because don't let one moment in time in your past define the whole future. Yeah?
It's like having one bad meal and then saying, well, I'm not going to eat ever again because I had one bad piece of food that was not cooked properly, or I got sick because of it, or I didn't like it, so I'm not eating ever again. Well, that's right. Extreme, right? So yes. You will eat again. It's a very good analogy.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. So jump back to the fatigue thing again. The one thing I've heard somebody talk about in the past was to think of our fatigue and what we demand of ourselves as kind of a banking relationship at the bank. You have a balance at the bank, and that's how much money you have available to you to withdraw. But if we withdraw all of the funds from our bank, the time that we need to take more money, there'll be none. And then we go into overdraft, which is bad. And you have to refill your bank. You have to top up your account and put things into your account that you can withdraw later. So if you want to be healthy and you have something that's going to demand a little bit more of your time and you have to give up some sleep, you need to bank some sleep so that you have something to withdraw from. So you should always be adding to your bank account of sleep and rest so that you can draw in those moments when, as maybe you're a mom and you have a small child at home, you're going to spend a lot of nights up with your baby. You're not going to get a lot of sleep. So whenever you can, you need to refill your bank account so you have something to withdraw from. Are we on the right path there?
Yeah. I'll phrase it slightly differently. So rest is not necessarily sleep.
Okay.
Right? Sleep is a large part of it.
Yep.
And, absolutely we need to make sure that we get enough sleep. It's essential for longevity. Like when we sleep, the body, repairs the brain. Like there's a reason why you feel foggy if you haven't slept properly in 3 days, right? So sleep is part of it, but I think it's 42% of the time we actually need to be resting, right? We're human beings, not human doings. And when we're resting, that's where the creativity creeps in. That's where the joy comes in. That's where the connection comes in. That's where, the Mediterranean people have this tradition of, you have your meal and you have it together as a group. And then you just sit around telling stories and, joking together and maybe singing together. And, there's this enjoyment process of having a meal together, but then also just hanging out together afterwards, like that to me is rest. It's like, what's the point of doing all the time if you don't get to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor, right?
Yeah.
And something like daydreaming, for example, is super important because that's there are some, I think it's alcoholism and it's a B vitamin deficiency, but basically it means that people don't sleep properly. They don't go into REM sleep.
Yeah.
Meaning they don't dream. So what happens then is they start dreaming while they're actually awake. Yeah, so they start hallucinating because the brain just needs those processes to happen. So we live in a society where we have all these gadgets that do all this work for us. We don't have to take our carpets outside and beat them with a carpet, whatever it's called. I don't know the word in English.
Yeah.
We have a vacuum cleaner, and some people even have a Roomba that does the whole thing by itself. You don't even take a vacuum cleaner around. So why is it that we're in this affluent society where each of us has got enough gadgets that's the equivalent of like 20 people working for you back in the day before technology, and we have less time than ever before, and families go and each person has a TV in their own room and they do their own thing. Like, no wonder we're disconnected, right?
Right.
So sleep is not, or rest isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. It's a necessity for thriving. And you can't really bank sleep. You can bank rest, but you can't really bank sleep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I will stop there. So if you have got one of those times where you require your body to do more than is actually reasonable, make sure you're well rested beforehand and make sure there's time afterwards where you can sleep. Now, thankfully, mums get really good melatonin levels when they have new babies. So when they sleep, they get like a really decent sleep so the brain can repair in that time. So that's one of the good things.
There you go.
But the thing is, if we spend tomorrow's energy today, then we're going to have to pay that back tomorrow with interest. And there comes a point in time where the body is so far in deficit that, sleeping an extra hour or resting an extra hour is not going to cut it. And that's when you can start getting sick, properly sick. Yeah. Like I often think of, in the society that we're in, it's like work. There's this ad here on Australian television where they say, oh, if you take this particular medicine when you've got a cold, then you can soldier on. It's my pet hate. It's like, if you get sick, your body needs you to rest. If you go and rest, like you probably got sick in the first place because you didn't rest properly, right?
True.
Or not enough. So go and rest, and your cold will be done in 3 days. If you soldier on, that thing's going to drag out for weeks, right? Yeah. Like, can we have a bit of compassion for our bodies? Like, the thing that blows my mind about disconnection, that was an interesting sentence in its own right, but the thing that blows my mind about disconnection, like, for example, we can drive from A to B if we know the road well and get to B and not even remember driving that because we were busy in our minds with something, like a conversation we're going to have or a project we're planning, or, and we haven't even seen where we went. So our bodies did that for us, right? Our bodies took us from A to B because they know how to drive, because we taught them. And, they're pretty good at keeping us safe. That's what they do. Everybody's put the foot on the brake before they realize there was something in front of the car. Like, it's amazing. So our bodies can work autonomously for, extended periods of time, but just not indefinitely.
Yeah.
So this thing about disconnection is almost the same thing. Like, we've got all these things that are going on in our minds, but we're not actually paying attention to what's going on for us right here in our lives. So we actually miss the whole thing. So if we can go back to going, oh, look at that beautiful tree on the side of the road as we're driving along, and can we be present in our bodies, then we will actually get the enjoyment that's available to us in the present moment to, actually get the joy out of our lives. Yeah, so you don't get to the end of the day and go, what just happened today? Like, what did I do all this for?
Yeah.
And I think I'm off topic, but
no.
Yeah, that was the energy thing. Yeah. So if, that's why if our bodies are requiring us to rest or to eat good food or to drink some water or to move or to just flake out and do nothing, and we don't do that, then we will need to, take a bigger chunk. And if we don't do it voluntarily, it will force us to eventually. That's why I was going with that. Like, how many people go, oh, I should take a holiday, but I won't yet. And it's like, and then eventually they get sick and they have to, because there's just too much deficit and you can't keep going the way you were.
Right.
So much better to do it voluntarily, I reckon.
Yeah. And then we have those cultures too that take siestas, Mediterranean, Southern Europe, Middle East, China even. It's kind of built into their culture to take an afternoon rest period.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why can't we make that a global thing? I think that there's so much benefit to that. And there's a reason why they've been doing that for centuries.
Absolutely.
That's just built into their culture.
I personally do
required.
that.
Yeah. So we need that.
It's like you get a second lease on the second part of the day. It's brilliant. And it doesn't take much. Sometimes all it takes is 10, 20 minutes. And it's like the lights switch back on again. Honor that. And then come back up.
Especially when you have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to record a podcast episode. You need those siestas.
I will definitely have a nap today, yes.
That's great. So for the readers, Iris, they're going to buy the new book in addition to the first one as well. What is your big hope for the reader? What do you want them to walk away with so that that they know that they know that they got something out of this book that was meant for them? What is it for them?
My desire for everybody who reads this book is to walk away from the book and the process that it invites you to do. And, this is probably not going to be an overnight thing, but walk away with a feeling of gratitude and reverence and appreciation and care for their bodies. Understand that literally their body, like your body is the only being you're guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with, right? Like, it's you and your body, and everything else can change, but it's you and your body. And your body wants to go on adventures with you. Your body wants to have a vibrantly alive time of it. Your body wants to thrive. Your body, wants to be loved by you. And if we can actually do that, then we will be truly present for our lives, and we will be just having so much more joy and so much more love and so much more wonderful experience of life. So that's why it's called Your Body is the Portal to Your Soul. Like, if you can really honor and appreciate and care for your body, then your soul can actually drop in properly and you can, be truly alive. And that's what I would desire for every single human being on the planet, to just have that experience, because then we can have peace, and then we can have connection, and then we can have joy, and then we can have, long leisurely dinners with people that we love. It's about squeezing all the juiciness out of life while we're here.
Yeah. So if you're wrestling in your life and you don't feel as creative as you used to be, maybe you're a little short with people, you're frustrated, things aren't going right, maybe you don't have enough rest, maybe there's something. Those are indicators for you that maybe you're off track. And getting your book's going to help us to get back on track, and working with you and speaking with you is going to help us get on track. I love that there's a resource out there, Iris, that can help us to kind of reconnect with ourselves and move past that frustration period where we don't feel like things are working properly. And then maybe that we're completely unaware and we're not as connected, and we need to be more aware of those warning signals, right?
Yeah. Being aware is definitely the first step to observing. I was going to say something else.
Anything else big picture from the book that we need to consider as we read through the book? Anything else we can leave people with today?
Life is a process. It's not an outcome. So, often when we go, okay, I'm going to change my life, it's almost like, okay, as of tomorrow, I'm going to be a completely different person. And it doesn't usually work like that. And if you trip up, it's okay. It's not a perfect, it's a practice. So if you do something and it doesn't quite work, then go back and do it again. Notice that it didn't quite work out the way you wanted to, and then tweak something so that you do things slightly differently next time. Life is also about accepting all the unpleasant stuff. The more we can accept the unpleasant stuff, the more room there is for the pleasant stuff, the fun stuff, the juiciness of life. And my one thing for anybody to take away, if they take away nothing else from our conversation, is gratitude. Gratitude is magic. I started making gratitude my conscious practice when I was 33, so 20 years ago. And it doesn't matter what you're grateful for. It can be something really simple, like, I don't know, eating an apple and the crispiness of the apple, and being grateful for what this apple is giving your body in terms of nutrients and delicious flavor and whatnot. The thing is, if you're grateful for this apple that you're eating, then your body carries the frequency of gratitude. Like, you can be grateful for really big things too, like your house that you're living in, or the people that you love, or a fancy overseas holiday, whatever. Be grateful for those too, but don't wait for those to be grateful. Find something every day that you can be grateful for. Your clever hands that can cook a meal, or, redecorate a house, or whatever it is. There's literally no limits to what you can be grateful for. And the more things you find to be grateful for, the more you will have to be grateful for, because you're now carrying this gratitude frequency. And, our bodies love carrying that gratitude frequency. That's a really healing high frequency. I've recently started a practice where I will literally tune into different parts of my body and say, thank you so much, heart, for beating. And my body, I do it for 3 minutes. My body, when I finish that practice, just feels phenomenal. It doesn't take much. So even if things are really difficult and dark and hard right now, when I'm in that sort of situation, I know that at the other end of this, I'm going to be feeling more self-love, more self-worth, more self-respect, more of who I truly am. So I can actually be grateful for this in advance, and that makes going through the hard stuff so much easier. So, the one thing I would recommend everybody is make gratitude a practice. Yeah, it's
Excellent.
Truly magic.
That's great. Iris, take us to your website as well. Let's connect everyone to come follow and be in touch with you. And where should we send everyone?
Yeah, so my website's just irisangellys.com. I'm also on YouTube with the handle Iris Angellys, and I've got a ton of different material on there, like meditations that go with the first book and other meditations and poems. And so the poems that are in my books I read out, and you can find them on my YouTube as well, so you can hear me, my voice saying it. Actually, in fact, this book is available as an audiobook as well. A lot of people prefer audiobooks.
Good.
And I'm on Facebook. It's at Passion to Thrive. And any workshops I run or meditations that I make will go on there as well. And yes, you can attend my workshops remotely. They're on Zoom.
Good.
I'm on Instagram, but not very wholeheartedly. So you could, if you're a true Instagram fan, you can go over there as well. It's just Iris Angellys as well.
Excellent. Yeah. So Iris, as we go, one healthy thing we can do today, like right after this episode, we hit stop. We're going to go do this one thing. What can we do today to give us some rest or reset our mindset or help us to create a healthy habit? One thing we can do today.
Go and get a glass of water, and then hold the glass of water and say, thank you, water, for nurturing my body, and then drink that water.
Easy.
Do that often. It is.
It's intentional, right? There's an intent behind it.
Yeah, that's right. Like even just drinking more water will be good. But if you can give that water gratitude, you're structuring the water with your intention of gratitude. And then your body takes that in. So it's like a double benefit from that.
Everyone has homework. Go drink a great glass of water. Do that today. And at the same time, go and order Iris's books, plural, and make sure you leave great reviews as well so other people can fall in love with the great books that Iris is putting out in the world. Iris, it's so great to have you back again. Write another book so you can come back again and do 3 times.
I will absolutely come back and tell you about my next project.
I love it. Awesome. Everybody, all the information is always in the show notes. Go back and also listen to Iris's past episode here on the podcast as well. We'll have links to that. That was back, episode 184. We're at like 4 something now. So we've done a little bit more since then.
Prolific.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But go back and listen to episode 184 as well. You'll hear Iris's first time on the show and now back again. So Iris, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. Thanks for being part of the podcast again. Appreciate you investing time in the show and you for listening this far. Thank you. One thing to keep in mind is we are looking for help and some support for the podcast. If you are able to help support our show, our little podcast show here, we can go over to livingthenextchapter.com and all the instructions will be there to help support the show. It takes about $30 to $40 a month to do this, just for the hosting and all of that other stuff that we pay for. But if the show is giving you any value and you're enjoying what's happening here, would love any kind of support that you can offer. That would be great. And you being here and sharing the show helps us grow. Helps us get great new authors on the show, connect with other listeners, and build community. So whatever you can do to share this show today, I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here for Living the Next Chapter, and I can't wait to share the next one with you. Talk soon. Have a great day.